On my wedding day, my fiancé openly abandoned the ceremony to be with his childhood sweetheart, Chelsea, who was pregnant out of wedlock and in labor. Facing the mocking glances of all our guests, I removed my veil and went to the hospital to demand an explanation from my fiancé. But there he was, holding Chelsea's newborn, his eyes overflowing with affection. Chelsea deliberately asked, "Marcus, today is your wedding day. You came to be with me during labor. What if Grace gets mad?" A wedding can always be rescheduled, but something as important as you giving birth, I couldn't possibly leave you alone in the hospital. From now on, I am this child's father. I will never let anyone bully the mother and child. Later, when I chose to marry someone else, he frantically rushed into the wedding venue, begging me for another chance. I left the hospital feeling numb, then took out my phone and dialed a number. "Ethan, did you mean what you said about wanting to marry me?" Ethan's flirtatious and irreverent tone came from the other end of the phone call. "Grace, who do you take me for? Am I just your backup option? If you're not willing, I'll find someone else." "I'll marry you," Ethan said through gritted teeth. "Grace, you yourself said you'd marry me. No backing out later. It's a deal." After we finalized the wedding date, I hung up and returned to the wedding venue. I apologized to all the friends and family who had come for the wedding, informing everyone that the ceremony had been rescheduled for a month later. Once all the guests were settled, I dragged my exhausted body home. Shortly after I sat down, I heard a sound at the door. Marcus walked into the room, his eyes full of apology as he looked at me. "Grace, I'm so sorry, but something truly urgent came up today." A bitter smile played on my lips. "Something urgent? What could be more important than our wedding?" Marcus looked at me and said, "A friend of mine had an accident, a life or death matter." I didn't have time to explain then. I just had to take her to the hospital first. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, the scene of him and Chelsea looking like a family of three, perhaps I would have believed his excuse. On our wedding day, there was no sign of the groom, and his phone was unreachable. At first, I worried something had happened to him on the way. It wasn't until I saw Chelsea's social media post that I learned he was there to support her during childbirth. Now, looking back, I realize I was a complete fool. Tears streamed down my face. I didn't want to cry for him, but my heart ached uncontrollably. Seeing this, Marcus immediately panicked. He pulled me into his arms and comforted me. "Grace, I know what happened today has hurt you. I promise I won't be absent from the next wedding." I raised my hand, pushed against his chest, and said, my voice choked, "No need. We won't be having another wedding." Marcus, however, didn't believe me. "Don't say things you don't mean. I know you've rescheduled the wedding for a month from now." I was about to tell him that he wouldn't be the groom a month later when his phone rang. Marcus's expression changed after he answered the phone call. "Okay, I'll be right there." He then let go of me and walked out. Only when he reached the entryway did he explain, "I have an urgent matter I need to deal with immediately. Please wait for me home. We can discuss the wedding when I get back." I didn't respond. A long time later, I picked up my phone, opened my social media post, and saw that Chelsea had posted another update. The accompanying picture was a profile shot of Marcus holding the baby. Who understands the pain of engorgement after giving birth? Luckily, the baby's daddy is here to help me. He's so good at it. I chuckled mockingly. So, that was the urgent matter he had to deal with? I picked up a chair and smashed it against the wall, shattering our wedding photos. After that, I called a cleaning service to throw everything in the room related to Marcus. The next morning, I woke up, put on light makeup, and went to the office. I allowed myself to grieve for love, but I wouldn't allow myself to wallow in despair over it. Perhaps I was just having a run of bad luck lately, but on my way to the office, I was hit by a car that changed lanes illegally, injuring my leg. I was taken to a nearby hospital for treatment. It was there that I coincidentally ran into Marcus, who was leaving the building, with his arm around Chelsea. Our eyes met. Marcus immediately pulled his arm from Chelsea's shoulder and anxiously asked, "Grace, what happened to you?" I said calmly, "Nothing, just a minor accident that injured my leg." Marcus immediately hovered around me, bustling about to get my x-rays and medication. Chelsea glanced at me, a flicker of jealousy in her eyes, and provocatively said, "Grace, your wedding wasn't completed. I won. But I underestimated you, you're surprisingly tolerant. However, if you think that's enough to keep Marcus by your side, you're gravely mistaken." Marcus and I met in college. We started our relationship by sharing an umbrella in the library during a rainstorm. His gentleness and special affection for me gradually captured my heart. We dated for 5 years, a model couple in college. Just as I thought we would continue our passionate love and walk down the aisle, Marcus's childhood sweetheart, Chelsea, returned from overseas. With a 4-month baby bump, she forcefully inserted herself between Marcus and me. Grace, believe it or not, as long as I'm around, Marcus will never marry you. At first, I scoffed at her words. Marcus and I had 5 years of deep affection. And she was pregnant out of wedlock, carrying another man's child. I didn't believe Marcus would abandon me for her. It wasn't until the wedding day that reality slapped me awake. But even if I lost, I didn't want to let her gloat. I looked at her and said coldly, Miss Chelsea, no matter what, I am Marcus's rightful fiancé. What right do you have to say these things to me? Is being the other woman a glorious profession now? Chelsea lifted her chin and said, the one who isn't loved is the other woman. Just then, the ground suddenly began to shake. Earthquake, someone shouted. Marcus, who was queuing for medicine, quickly ran towards us, grabbed Chelsea's arm, and ran outside. Chelsea panicked and reminded him, Marcus, the baby. Marcus then changed direction, ran upstairs, retrieved the baby, and then left with Chelsea. My gaze followed his retreating figure, but from beginning to end, he never once looked back at me. At that moment, I had to admit that my 5 years of relationship with Marcus meant nothing in front of Chelsea. I didn't lose to Chelsea, I just lost to him. It wasn't until the ground stopped shaking that Marcus seemed to remember my existence. He walked against the flow of people from outside to stand before me. He stammered, Grace, I was too worried about the baby just now. So I neglected you. A bitter smile played on my lips as I said, it's okay. Of course, the baby is more important. Hearing my understanding, Marcus's face showed a relieved smile. Grace, it's wonderful that you understand me. I'll take you home. Chelsea, however, held the loudly crying baby, tears in her eyes, and looked at him from behind. Marcus, the baby seems to be frightened. Marcus's eyes filled with concern, and he immediately turned around. I'll take the baby and Chelsea upstairs first. Wait for me here. I nodded silently. The moment they went upstairs, I turned and left. Marcus, I won't wait for you anymore. After 2 days of rest at home to heal my leg injury, I returned to the office as usual. To my surprise, when I came home from work, I saw Chelsea holding the baby in my home. Seeing me, she said, her face full of triumph, Ms. Grace, you're back. Marcus was worried no one would take care of me after I was discharged from the hospital. Oh, he brought me and the baby here. My gaze fixed on the robe she was wearing. I gritted my teeth and said, take it off. Who gave you permission to wear my clothes? Chelsea placed the baby aside and walked closer to me, her smile widening. Of course, Marcus allowed it. Not just your clothes, I'm going to take everything that's yours. With that, she slapped me across the face. I immediately raised my hand to retaliate, but she stumbled backward like a kite with a broken string. Then she cried out loudly, Ms. Grace, I didn't mean to wear your clothes. Ms. Grace, please don't be angry, I'll return the clothes right away. She raised her hands and took off the clothes she was wearing, exposing herself to me, barely clothed. The baby beside her was also startled and began to cry loudly. I froze for a second, quickly realizing I had been tricked, but before I could speak, Marcus pushed open the door and rushed in. Seeing the scene before him, he pushed me to the ground. Grace, when did you become so vicious, to lay hands on such a helpless mother and child? Marcus carefully picked up the baby, then took off his own jacket and covered Chelsea with it. Chelsea leaned into his embrace, her face full of grievance. Marcus, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have worn Ms. Grace's clothes. Please don't blame Ms. Grace. Her words only fueled Marcus's anger. He glared at me and said, my warrior clothes, if you have a problem, direct it at me. Marcus's blindly biased favoritism truly made me heartbroken. Suppressing the hurt in my heart, I roared, this is my home. How dare you bring her here? How dare you let her wear my clothes? Marcus helped Chelsea up and looked at me, saying, I brought Chelsea back here thinking both you and Chelsea needed care, so I could look after both of you. But since you can't tolerate her, I'll take her away. Chelsea's clothes got dirty from breastfeeding, so I just grabbed one of your clothes for her to wear. I never imagined you'd be such a petty and narrow-minded person. You stay here and reflect. When you've come to your senses, apologize to Chelsea. Otherwise, don't expect me to marry you. With that, Marcus left with Chelsea and the baby. His accusations echoed in my ears. The moment the door closed, I slumped powerlessly to the floor. Marcus, I wasn't going to marry you anyway. A month later, I put on my wedding dress and got into the wedding car that Ethan had sent to pick me up, driving towards the wedding reception hall. On the way, I received a text message from Marcus. It's been a month. You should be done reflecting by now. Today is Chelsea's baby's welcome party. Buy a gift and bring it over yourself, and I'll consider it your apology. I smiled and sent him a selfie of myself in my wedding dress. Can't. I'm getting married today. At the baby's welcome party, Marcus's brothers teased him. Marcus, you're really full of surprises. We thought you'd end up with Grace, but who knew you and your childhood sweetheart were having a secret affair, and even had a baby. But seriously, don't you think it's a shame to just abandon Grace like that? She looks so much better than your childhood sweetheart, not just a little bit. Hearing everyone's discussion, Marcus's brows furrowed instinctively. What rumors are you spreading? Who said Chelsea and I are together and I abandoned Grace? Everyone looked confused. Didn't you say you were the baby's father? Marcus explained to everyone, I've always seen Chelsea as a younger sister. Her child was born without a father, and to prevent him from being bullied in the future, I became his godfather. Marcus, you should have said so earlier. We thought you were the biological father with all this fuss you're making. And, why haven't we seen her today? Is she upset? If you ask me, making the biological mother of your future child angry for the sake of a godson isn't worth it. Prompted by everyone's reminders, Marcus suddenly remembered the he hadn't contacted me since the last incident. Mainly because he had been working tirelessly caring for the new mother, constantly exhausted, he would just collapse into sleep. Fortunately, now that the baby's welcome party was over, he felt he could retire from his duties. Thinking this, he immediately took out his phone to contact me, but then felt it would be embarrassing to directly contact me after saying such harsh words last time. So he sent me a text message, believing he was giving her an opening, but he never expected to receive a reply saying I was getting married. Marcus immediately dialed my number, but only heard the automated female voice informing him that he had been blocked on his phone. An unprecedented panic surged through him. He turned off his phone and immediately ran outside. Chelsea, quick as a flash, grabbed him. Marcus, the baby's welcome party isn't over yet, where are you going? Marcus shook off Chelsea's arm and said, I'm going to find Grace. Grace said today is her wedding, I need to see what's going on. Hearing him say that, Chelsea was even less likely to let go. She tightly clung to his arm, whimpering, Marcus, Grace is definitely just saying that to get you to leave. The baby's welcome party isn't over yet. If you leave now, won't the baby be looked down upon later? Marcus, when the baby's welcome party is over, I'll go with you to apologize to Ms. Grace, okay? Chelsea's words were so pitiful and understanding. Normally, Marcus would have stayed as she suggested. But now, my image filled his mind, and he couldn't care about anything else. He shook Chelsea's arms off with even more force. What does it matter to me if the baby is looked down upon? I'm not his biological father. This period of caring for the mother and child had completely exhausted his patience. At this moment, he had absolutely no patience left. After pushing Chelsea away, Marcus immediately rushed back to my home, intending to open the door, but found that I had changed the lock. After several unsuccessful attempts, he gradually calmed down, quickly contacted our mutual friends, and after learning that the wedding was being held at the hotel, he immediately rushed there. I also hadn't expected that in just 1 month, Ethan could arrange the wedding venue to be so luxurious and grand. The site was adorned with fresh pink roses, filling the entire banquet hall with a faint floral scent. Luxurious chandeliers hung from the ceiling of the hall, radiating brilliant light throughout the space. Ethan, dressed in a black suit, sat at the piano, opening the wedding with a rendition of Wedding in a Dream. I had to admit, this was exactly the wedding I had always dreamed of. After playing the piano, Ethan slowly walked towards me, bowed like a gentleman, and extended his left hand. My heart was racing as I placed my right hand in his. Fingers intertwined, Ethan slowly led me by the hand towards the center of the stage. He looked at me with a firm voice and said, Grace, this time you've willingly given your hand to me. You have no chance to regret it. I looked at him, a smile playing on my lips, and repeated the same words I had said 3 years ago, since I've made my choice, I won't regret it. The difference was that 3 years ago, I chose Marcus, now, I chose him. Ethan's smile widened. He and I walked to the center of the stage, and before everyone's eyes, we exchanged vows of a lifetime. Just then, the doors to the banquet hall suddenly burst open, and Marcus, drenched in sweat, ran in, shouting, I object. Ethan immediately gripped my hand, as if afraid I would run away. In a flash, Marcus was in front of me. Grace, you're my fiancé, how can you marry Ethan? You're doing all this just to spite me, aren't you? Now that I'm here, I'll take you away immediately. Saying this, he reached out to pull me, but Ethan immediately raised his hand to block him. I looked at Marcus and said coldly, Arcus, from the moment you abandoned our wedding that day, disregarding my feelings, we were over. Marcus anxiously explained, Grace, Chelsea was about to give birth then, it was a life or death situation. I truly didn't mean to run away from the wedding. I sneered, do you think you can even fool yourself with that? You could have simply taken Chelsea to the hospital and still made it back for our wedding, but instead, you chose to turn off your phone and stay there to be with her during labor. What are you, an obstetrician delivering the baby, or the baby's biological father? Could not give birth without you? My words left Marcus speechless. His decision to abandon the wedding to attend the birth certainly seemed irrational in hindsight. Grace, I admit I was irrational then. It was wrong of me to leave you alone at the wedding venue. I promise you, I will never leave you alone again. I smiled silently. It's too late. I, Grace, have never been one to wait around and wallow in self-pity. Grace, don't. Ethan interrupted Marcus. Today is Grace's and my wedding. If you're here to offer blessings, you're welcome. But if you're here to cause trouble, then don't blame me for being unwelcoming. Despite the warning, Marcus continued to shout and make a scene, insisting on taking me away. Ethan simply called security, who escorted him out. With his disruption gone, the wedding continued. After a series of elaborate procedures, by the time we returned to the marital suite, I was completely starving, lying on the bed, not wanting to move a muscle. Ethan brought a bowl of savory chicken noodle soup and placed it on the table, then began to remove the heavy ornaments from my hair. His eyes sparkled with amusement as he looked at me. How are you doing? Can you move? Do you want me to feed you? Meeting his smiling eyes, my face immediately flushed with warmth. I quickly sat up from the bed. No, thank you. I still have the strength to eat, I'll do it myself. The chewy homemade noodles, coated in rich broth, were so delicious they practically made my tongue tingle. Ethan watched me dotingly the entire time, even reaching out to ruffle my hair. Slow down, no one's going to steal it from you. After I finished the bowl of noodles, Ethan's gaze grew darker. Full now? Then we can get down to business. Hearing that at this particular moment made my heart pound a little, but I also knew that any further refusal or delay would just be me being coy. I stood up with a sense of resolute determination and said, wait for me, I'm going to take a shower. Ethan's smile grew more suggestive. All right, I'll be waiting for you. I spent over an hour in the bathroom, scrubbing myself raw, before finally mentally preparing myself and opening the door. Ethan teased, I thought you were planning to sleep in the bathroom tonight. I looked up at Ethan. He had already showered in the other bathroom and was now lounging by the headboard, wearing a red robe like mine, his clothing loose, revealing his semi-naked chest and faint abdominal muscles. I took a deep breath, feigning composure, and slowly walked to the bed. He reached out, hooked my wrist, and pulled, and I tumbled onto him. His warm breath brushed against my ear. Sweetheart, you made me wait a long time. A tingling sensation ran down my ear, and my voice involuntarily softened a few degrees. Ethan, please don't be like this. He chuckled softly by my ear, then tightened his arm around my waist, tilting his body so we both lay on our sides on the bed. He raised a hand and gently traced my face, his dark pupils reflecting only my image. Grace, I feel like I'm dreaming. Did I really marry you? I leaned in and pressed a soft kiss on Ethan's forehead. This isn't a dream. I really married you, Ethan. This time, I chose you. Tears welled up in Ethan's eyes as he looked at me, and then he, too, reverently kissed my forehead. The night was filled with passion, even the moon hid shyly behind the clouds. Life with Ethan was much happier than I had ever imagined. I took half a month off from the office for our honeymoon with Ethan. But I never expected that Marcus, unable to find me, would cause a huge uproar online. He a massive banner outside Hayes, publicly denouncing Ethan as a homewrecker, claiming Ethan used his power and influence to steal his fiancé. This action quickly found resonance with anti-rich sentiment online. I despise these trust fund babies the most, they just happen to be born into wealth, what makes them so superior? Ethan's company faced boycotts, and its stock price plummeted as a result. Thus, we had to cut our honeymoon short and return to deal with Marcus's issue. When I returned, Marcus was still outside Hayes, holding a banner and making a loud scene. Seeing me get out of the car, his eyes lit up, and he immediately ran towards me. Ethan immediately raised a hand to stop him, but I pulled Ethan's arm. Let me talk to him alone for a bit. Ethan turned to look at me, finally cautioning, don't go far, I'll be right here waiting for you. I nodded. With the chance to be alone with me, Marcus looked even more agitated. Grace, I knew you still had feelings for me. I raised my hand and slapped Marcus hard across the face. That's for abandoning our wedding and leaving me to be ridiculed by everyone. Marcus's face was turned to one side. I then backhanded him again. This slap is for leaving me behind during the earthquake. Facing my two slaps, Marcus didn't retort at all. He just looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. Grace, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have abandoned the wedding, and I shouldn't have left you during the earthquake. I looked at him and challenged, Marcus, lay your hand on your heart and tell me, did I really marry Ethan because of his power and influence? Marcus shook his head and said, but I had no choice. If I didn't do this, you wouldn't have shown up to see me. His eyes were filled with hurt. Grace, we've been together for 5 years. I truly can't live without you. Please, come back to me. Yes. We were together for 5 years, yet that couldn't compare to the 6 months Chelsea was back. You publicly abandoned our wedding and humiliated me, all to become the father of her child, whose paternity is unknown. Marcus, admit it. You never truly loved me that much. Everything you're doing now is just out of spite. Marcus grabbed my wrist. No, Grace, I love you. It's just that Chelsea and I grew up together. When she came to me pregnant, I was soft-hearted and made a mistake. I promise you, I'll never do it again. I truly know I was wrong. I forcefully shook off his hand. But I have no obligation to keep waiting for you to repent, nor do I have an obligation to forgive your mistakes. Marcus, in the 5 years we dated, I believe I never wronged you in any way. If you continue to pester me like this, don't blame me for being merciless. After all, we once shared their complicated relationship. I don't want to actually take it to court. With that, I turned and left without hesitation, just as he had left me before. Afterward, I organized my files and published their complicated relationship between Marcus and me online. Marcus reposted my file with a comment. Everything said is true. I was wrong first, then I pestered her, and I even slandered Ethan online to force her to come out. I sincerely apologize to everyone here. With that, the online harassment storm completely subsided. Ethan was even dubbed the romantic by netizens for his 3-year devotion to me, attracting many fans. As for Marcus, after posting his statement, he completely disappeared. Much later, I heard that after Marcus posted his statement online, he went back to his hometown. Chelsea also pursued him with the baby, crying and making a scene at Marcus's family home, demanding that Marcus marry her. The uninformed neighbors and villagers thought Marcus had seduced and then abandoned Chelsea, and they all condemned him. Later, Marcus, for some unknown reason, changed his mind and actually married Chelsea. However, their life after marriage was not as good as Chelsea had imagined. After returning to his hometown, Marcus developed a habit of smoking and heavy drinking. He no longer cared for Chelsea and the child as he had before. The child even fell ill and died due to both parents' neglect. After the child's death, Chelsea, unable to bear that life, filed for divorce. But, with the mindset of tormenting her by refusing to divorce, stubbornly refused. Chelsea, still bearing the title of his wife, was caught having an affair with another man by Marcus. Upon hearing of their eventual fate, I couldn't quite describe the feeling in my heart. It was more a sense of pity. That evening, Ethan came home and bought me my favorite durian. Seeing it, my eyes lit up. Ethan peeled the durian and presented it to me, smiling, "Sweetie." I retorted playfully, "Is it me who's greedy? Clearly, it's your son who's craving it." Ethan reached out and rubbed my bulging belly, teasing, "My son is still too young to carry such a heavy responsibility." I playfully punched him. 3 months later, Ethan and my child came into the world. From then on, we officially became a happy family of 3.